Well, let me just share a little bit about how I got here to where I'm the guy giving the workshops on how we address this topic. So I came to Christ at a young age. I actually was 4 years old. It was Easter Sunday, and I remember coloring a picture of the empty tomb, and I asked my dad, what did it all mean? And so he was explaining the gospel to me. And from that day, I accepted Christ, and it was a Baptist church, so we had an altar call every week. I went forward every week because they'd say, hey, you want to get saved? And I was like, yeah. So I went down every single week for about a year. One of those stuck, and I kept with it. And from a young age, I remember having a heart to follow the Lord, heart to read the Bible, and overall, I would have been considered a good kid. Well, my introduction to pornography, I was 12 years old, and my older brother was watching pay per view television back in the days before it was digital. Now, my parents, thankfully, did not purchase these channels, but they were a little fuzzy, but you could see well enough. And so my brother had this stuff on. I'm down there, I see this stuff. It's very enticing. I knew that it was wrong, yet the temptation took hold of me. And from that period on, I remember going down there late at night and seeing if they were showing pornography. So that lasted less than a year. The cable company did me a favor. They scrambled that fully, and that was no longer an option. When I turned 15, we got the internet. And that year, I was a sophomore in high school, went over to a friend's house. He got on his computer. He started looking up porn. And so I remember I asked him, I didn't know that this stuff is online. And he's like, yeah, there's lots of this online. And then I said, well, wouldn't somebody find out? And he said, no, nobody has to find out. And so from that time on, internet pornography became a huge temptation and a huge hook in my soul. Now, as a good Christian kid, I did not like this struggle, this addiction that I had. So I was also a little weird. I told my parents. So I was a senior in high school, and I said, I'm struggling with internet porn. I don't want to do this anymore. Mom and dad, good Christian parents, looked at me, and they seemed glad that I told them that, shocked that I had done what I had done. They never brought it up again, and they made no changes to like our computer or anything. So as much as I had hoped that that was that, I'd told my parents, and it was done, the addiction continued. As I got into college, I joined the Navigators ministry, got plugged into a Bible study. One of the first weeks on campus, I remember I shared with these 6 new friends that I had about my struggle. All 6 of them were in the same boat, struggling with pornography. None of them had ever told anyone. I was the first person they had told. So now, as an 18-year-old Christian, all my Christian friends are in the same boat. We're struggling with internet porn, and we had no idea of resources or anything that could help us. So all through college, while I was in the Navigators, a part of a local church, going to Sunday service, going to Nav meetings, attending Bible study, leading Bible study, sharing the gospel, got to lead some guys to faith, discipled some of these guys that I got to lead to faith, very active in mission trips, spent my summers as either a camp counselor or at a Navigator summer training program. All the while doing all those things, I was addicted to pornography. And I remember I told my Navigator staff that I was struggling, the guy who was discipling me. He didn't know any tools or resources to help me. It basically was like, here's a couple verses, I'll pray for you, and maybe if I remember, I'll ask you in a few months. And that was kind of the help we got at that time. Now, when I graduated, I got recruited to join the Navigators as a full-time staff. And I happened, as God would have it, that year was the year that the Navigators decided they were going to address pornography. And so I was one of the first batch of new staff where I had an older staff man ask me, how are you doing with porn? And I had to say to him, not good. It's my first job out of college. I'm an intern, and I'm thinking I'm probably about to get fired. This man did not rebuke me. He said, I'm going to help you with this. He came alongside me, and he helped me. He understood the problem. He had been doing research. He was the man who had got the Navigators to address this issue in the first place. He came alongside me. He helped me, and really it was his influence in my life that got me to a place of freedom. So I guess as I talk about my story, I've been free from pornography for about 8 years by the grace of God. It was a 5-year battle for me to get free from porn, starting basically my senior year of college when I started to get some help, installed Covenant Eyes, all the way through the first year of my marriage when I had to talk to my new wife about looking at pornography. Hardest conversation I've ever had in my life. Yet this struggle, as much as I wish it was not a part of my life, there's nothing else in my life that has shown me more my need for the gospel. The gospel is powerful for me because I'm broken. The gospel speaks to my sexual brokenness. Also, as a campus minister, there's been no greater avenue for ministry. As I'm ministering to men and women on campus, many of whose stories are just like mine. And I get to look at them and say, I understand. I want to help you in the same way that that man came alongside. and helped me. And so my message to the church, I've been able to help a number of churches as a campus minister, is this: I'm getting your 18-year-olds. They're coming to me already struggling with porn. Now, Matthew, our youth pastor, has already done me a favor because he just said, hey, I think it's about 100% of our high school guys that are struggling with this. So I don't really have to try to argue with him about that. He came to me and said that. That's the situation that we're up against. And so my primary message for us as a church, as hard as this is to hear, is that if we keep doing what we're doing, we will keep getting what we're getting, but it actually will get worse. Because technology, as it continues to grow and develop, opens up new avenues for our young people to get exposed at earlier age and at more toxic doses of pornography, which is really preying upon them. And that is the battle that we face.